Howdy folks, hope you're all having a great weekend and welcome back to Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Daemonhunters, where you're going to see something highly unusual today. A flawless mission. Look, I know, I get it, alright? It's probably more entertaining for you lot watching me scramble around furiously trying to recover from my mistakes. But it's not often I perform a flawless mission. I mean, I came close in the last episode, but I screwed it up right at the beginning. And I'm proud of myself, damn it. I want to show it off. So here it is. Except it's not entirely a flawless mission. I do commit one error. See if you can spot it. So, this is a danger level severe mission. I mean, the bloom spawn here is completely out of control, and the valorous deed is to finish the mission before I take 35 damage. This planet is not covered by my prognosticars. I have no idea of the threat that I'm facing. I just know it's going to be bad, and I also therefore don't have access to the bonus prognosticar stratagems. So yeah, I'm not going to take on that valorous deed. Librarian Horos is at rank 7, so he's not at maximum rank yet, but he already has some extremely nice abilities which are going to come in very, very handy on this mission.
The threads of prognostication lead here to the husk of this abandoned mountain fortress.
Time is against us now. The great bloom spawn has completely gestated its seeds. It will expel them very soon.
So, this is another mission to destroy a bloom spawn spreader. I have 8 turns in which to do it, and there are some side objectives, some bloom spawn that can also be destroyed, but you don't have to kill them in order to complete the mission. The spreader is of course right at the other end of the level, but there are bloom spawn vents scattered around, which you can destroy. There's one over there, which will extend the mission timer by 1 turn. So we're going to do that. Now, due to the combination of the time limit imposed on you and the way the level designers have laid the mission out, it's next to impossible to make it to that bloom spawn spreader without running into either a patrol or one of the side objective bloom spawns. These missions are basically designed to try to slow you down as much as possible and tie you up with secondary objectives when you should be going for that bloom spawn spreader. So it's often better to not try to avoid everything and just pick the distractions that you want to engage on your own terms, rather than getting surprised by a patrol in the enemy's turn when you're not prepared to deal with it. And so, since right now I am perilously close to 2 patrols and that bloom spawn, I figure I'm going to take this bloom spawn out, hopefully without activating that patrol in the background as well, because there's just no way of getting through without running into one or more of them. So bearing that in mind, I'm choosing to take on this bloom spawn, which isn't actually guarded by a patrol, in order to clear the way to allow me to get to that spreader without running into more than I can handle at once. As usual, Interceptor Storm is going to be doing most of the heavy lifting here, although I'm softening the target up first with Apothecary Harm. And yeah, this thing does some very, very nasty ranged area of effect damage. I can't really afford to let it get that attack off, so I need to kill it in 1 turn. Not just because there's a time limit, and yes, that means I'm going to be using the teleport strike against a single target. There is a method to my madness, because Interceptor Storm is such a massive badass. And also because one of his auto abilities triggered and he got the action point back on the teleport, that means he still has his full 3 action points to carve this thing up. Which means he's going to need to force strike the first attack in order to reduce it to 10 health. But then his power sword does 5 damage with basic attacks, and he has 2 attacks left. So this thing is dead.
Targets destroyed.
Nicely done, brother. I still have 8 turns to go in order to reach and destroy the bloom spawn spreader, but there's a bloom spawn vent here, so I can buy myself an extra turn. Move the librarian up, clear the bloom spawn vent, and now I have 9 turns in which to reach the target. There is a patrol up ahead though. Oh, hang on a second. Is that a chaos seed?
Your command.
It is a chaos seed. Well, Interceptor Storm's the only one who's used any willpower so far, so I'll use him to recover the seed and gain another point of willpower back. And next we're going to go and deal with the patrol up ahead. Rather than trying to work my way around it and potentially run into another patrol, I'm just going to go right through it. And this is where things almost go horribly, horribly wrong. You'll see what happens when the patrol is spotted. There they are. So there's a plague ridden, a couple of plague bearers, and more importantly, there's a Chaos Marine with a hazard spray. The plague ridden's generating a cloud of flies, which means everybody around him has taken -2 damage from ranged attacks. He's just provided a whole bunch of beneficial mutations to everybody around him, which honestly I could have done without, but the worst thing is what the plague marine does with his hazard spray. I can now not approach any of these guys in melee without becoming plagued. And remember, the plague ridden is generating a cloud of flies, so any ranged attacks directed into that cloud are going to do -2 damage, and my squad is kind of low on ranged firepower to begin with, so basically any Stormbolter shots into that lot are going to do no damage. So I have to take them on with melee attacks, but anybody who wanders into that affliction cloud is going to end up becoming plagued. And I don't have an apothecary in the squad. Shit. Oh, and also there are 2 plague bearers there who have a 50% chance to parry the first melee attack made against them. So my ranged attacks are basically going to do no damage. There's a good chance that any melee attacks are going to be parried and become ineffective, and in order to close to melee range anyway, it's going to cost action points, which I don't have a lot of, and anybody in melee range is going to be plagued. Fun for all the family. So, how am I going to deal with this? Well, I do have a couple of grenades, but I'm not going to kill that lot with a couple of grenades. Now, ordinarily, when you've got a bunch of enemies clustered up like that, it's just begging to have Justicar Iolanthus charge in and blitz them all with a rending cleave, but, you know, hazard spray, so, yeah. Fortunately, I don't need to worry about any of that, and I'll show you why. First, though, I've moved Apothecary Han up because he has the Extractor Servo Skull to get it in range of the seed carrier there, who's got one of those blue seeds that I don't have an awful lot of. So, seed recovered. Next, I'm going to move Librarian Foros up so that he's in range to get a Vortex of Doom off. This is such a good ranged area of effect damage attack. It completely bypasses armor. It doesn't knock them all around, so you can't follow it up with other area of effect attacks. And it does a huge amount of damage once fully upgraded that completely bypasses armor. And because it's a psychic attack, it doesn't affect any marines in the blast area either. This Vortex of Doom and the Gate of Infinity mass teleport ability are the 2 reasons why you always want a librarian in the squad. So that's softened them all up nicely. Next, Justicar Iolanthus. So I'm going to do 2 things with him. Well, I'm going to do 3 things. The first is 1 action point to get him close enough to hit them all with a grenade. And this is a Psych Out grenade, not a frag grenade. The frag grenade would knock them all back and make it, again, more difficult to do follow-up attacks. It's killed one of them, inflicted damage on the other 3, and silenced everybody in the blast area. So, none of those pesky psychic abilities. And the last thing he's going to do is, you guessed it, honor the chapter on Intercepted Storm. I'm not going to bother warp charging it, an extra 2 action points should be enough. Then we go back to Apothecary Han. We buff Interceptor Storm with Warp Speed Biomancy, which gives him extra movement and bonus crit damage. But hang on.
Unleash me.
You're going to teleport strike straight into the middle of that hazard field? Isn't that going to be really bad for Interceptor Storm? Well, normally it would be, but he's wearing some Mastercrafted power armor that makes him 100% immune to hazards. And with the Warp Speed Biomancy buff, I can move him up with just 1 action point, close enough to do a lot of damage with this Warp Charged Teleport Strike, killing 1 outright,
No match.
which is nice. He still has 3 action points left. So he's going to kill the Plague Marine. 2 action points left, and now the Plague Ridden.
Finished.
The Plague Ridden does have 12 health left though, and the Force Sword only does 5 damage per hit. Unless I power it up with a Force Strike. So I'm going to power it up with a Force Strike. Actually, I'm going to power it up with 2 Force Strikes, because that will kill the Plague Ridden outright. And as easily as that, a very, very nasty patrol has been completely eliminated without a single member of the squad taking any damage. And we've purified the Bloomspawn vent as well, which now means we have 10 turns to reach the spreader and destroy it. Which isn't bad when you consider that 4 turns ago we started the mission with 8 turns to get to the Bloomspawn spreader and destroy it. we reach the spreader itself without any further incidents, which is not bad, but mostly because I picked and chose the encounters, rather than trying to avoid them all, which usually just means you end up running into more than one at the same time on their terms rather than your own.
Monolithic bloom spawn reached. Converging enemies detected.
We cannot let it pollinate nearby systems. It must be stopped now.
So, one bloom spawn spreader with a shit ton of health protected by enemies covering it with Overwatch, with reinforcements beaming in every turn for the next 5 turns. This, kids, is what Gate of Infinity was invented for. Mass teleport the entire squad in, bypass the Overwatch, and drop everybody right on top of that bloom spawn spreader. In retrospect, looking back at this mission, I should probably have used Librarian Forrest's Gate of Infinity, because unlike the Stratagem Gate of Infinity, it doesn't cost the entire squad 1 action point. I was conscious at the time of wanting to save his willpower in order to be able to get a Vortex of Doom off on these tightly packed enemies, but he definitely still has the willpower to spare because I haven't really been using it. It ends up not really mattering. Quicksilver Stratagem on Interceptor Storm, there's another 2 action points. And I can't reuse stratagems because I do have the Reflective Insight ability, which gives me +1 use on any one stratagem during a mission, but that only happens if you have the mission planet covered by your prognosticars, which I don't, so I can't. I only get 1 use of each stratagem in this mission, and I don't have the prognosticar stratagem, so I've used all of my stratagems now. That's Quicksilver and the Gate of Infinity. Apothecary Han does the old warp speed biomancy again on Interceptor Storm, so bonus movement, but more importantly, bonus crit damage. And I then use the Extractor Servo Skull on the Seed Carrier because it's a free action, it costs me nothing, and, you know, I don't have an awful lot of those blue seeds. With Apothecary Han's remaining action point, there's no sense in saving the willpower now, this is it, so he's going to boost his Stormbolter attack with a Psybolt, and of course because he's standing right next to Interceptor Storm, he gets a reaction Stormbolter shot off as well, which doesn't cost anything other than the ammunition. Before I unleash Interceptor Storm on everything though, well, we may as well use the rest of the squad in order to soften everything up. So, I'm going to switch to Justicar Iolanthus, and I did kind of make a bit of a mistake here, because I'd forgotten that the Stratagem Gate of Infinity had cost everybody 1 action point. My plan here was to use Honor the Chapter on Interceptor Storm, obviously, to give him even more action points, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And I am going to Warp Charge it, because again, there's no sense in saving the willpower, this is pretty much the end of the mission. So that's another 3 action points and a point of willpower for Interceptor Storm. And thinking that Iolanthus still had 2 action points left, this is where I kind of screw up. But not really. Because remember, those Plague Bearers are going to parry melee attacks, but you can't parry the Rend the Unclean area of effect attacks. So I move him up into the middle, and he's got no action points left. Which ended up not actually being a mistake, because Rend the Unclean would have knocked them all back, and that would have made it harder for Librarian Foros to catch them all with his Vortex of Doom. So technically I suppose you could call that a mistake, but I'm just going to call it a happy little accident. Foros should still have 1 action point left. I may as well use his Smite ability. Like I said, there's no point in saving willpower now, this is it. But hang on, Jingles. There are reinforcements coming in every turn for the next 4 turns. Well, yeah, but also no. Because this is a bloom spawn spreader mission. And it works very differently to, for example, hunting down and killing the seed carrier missions, where the mission end triggers when you either extract the last seed or kill the last seed carrier. But then you have to hold on 2 turns and any remaining enemy reinforcements beam in. It doesn't work like that in these missions. These missions end the second you destroy the bloom spawn spreader. And yes, I know that all I have left is Interceptor Storm, but he still has 4 action points. And his Force Sword does 5 damage every time he hits something, even without spending willpower on a Force Strike. And that thing only had 20 health.
Bloom spawn destroyed, Commander. Work disturbances have abated. Initiating teleport.
And so that's it. And not 1 single point of damage was taken by anybody in the entire squad. So where's this big screw-up you were talking about, Jingles? Because that did kind of look like a flawless mission. It was a flawless mission, and that's where I screwed up. Have you finally lost it, old man? You completed the mission, and nobody took any damage. Yeah, but... well, do you remember this? For bonus requisition points, complete this mission before your squad takes 35 damage between them. On a planet infested with a maximum level of corruption, with no prognosticar coverage, no bonus stratagem use, no prognosticar stratagems, and no intel available on the types of enemies that I'm going to be facing. Yeah, nope. And then I completed the mission without taking any damage. Well, shit. God damn it. But then again, you know, you got to look on the bright side. That's the kind of screw-up I am happy to make. So, yeah, I'll take the flawless victory. Honestly, it would be churlish to complain. Don't worry, I'm sure it won't last. There will be more hilarious cock-ups coming in the very near future. In the meantime, however, that is it for today. I hope you're all having a fantastic weekend. I hope you've enjoyed the video. And as always, be pure, be vigilant, behave.